Hello, this is Dr. Kavian Milani for Virginia Medical Updates. One of the most interesting developments in the last few years in the study of diabetes type 2, type 1, and obesity has been the role of the microbiome, the bacteria that live on our bodies in the development of these illnesses. Is there a correlation, for example, between the kind of food that we eat and the kind of weight that we gain? Well, of course there is. That's not news. But the news actually could be that the kind of bacteria in our gut, in our stomach, in our intestines, does determine the kind of disease that we may have, the kind of illness, the kind of diabetes that may develop. And there are a couple of plausible mechanisms for this. If you think about this, really, the bacteria that live in our gut, they do produce enzymes. They do basically have genetic material, so they really can influence the way we become sick or the way we may be able to become resistant to illnesses. And there are a number of studies now that have proven really very interesting results, like in terms of the gut-brain connection, and there's lots of money being put into those kind of studies right now in terms of all kinds of illnesses. Is there a role in autism? Is there a role in ADHD? For our purposes today, though, I do want to focus on the role of the gut microbiome. The human body has about 13 trillion cells, and about 200 to 800 times that number lives in our gut, in the intestines. These bacteria, they grow, they secrete, they help digestion, and they do a lot of things for us. But they also have material that does lead to some very interesting findings. There are a number of studies in which the gut flora, the bacteria from the human gut that is slightly obese, introduced into germ-free mice, and that mice will then develop obesity. Very interesting. And on the other hand, there are also studies of the gut flora from a lean human being being introduced to a germ-free mice, and that mice then remaining lean. So there is definitely a correlation that has been proven in adequate number of studies in terms of the exact nature and the exact connection between gut flora and between illnesses. Looking at the case for diabetes, it is even more interesting because diabetes is an illness that has two types, type 1 and type 2. Some studies have shown that if you introduce basically lactobacilli or acidophilus to children that are basically 1 month old, you will see a decrease potentially in type 1 diabetes. That's a very interesting finding. But there are also studies of the same nature for older people, older subjects with diabetes, where if you have people that they have the appropriate type of good bacteria in their gut, the Bacteroidetes species, these group of bacteria, they do cause a decrease in insulin resistance, they do cause a decrease in weight, and they do cause a decrease in ghrelin, the hormone in charge of appetite stimulation. So there are a number of places where this could be used. But the most compelling and the most interesting data comes from rat studies, where a rat is subjected to increased caloric intake, and the type of gut bacteria that is more suggestive of obesity and weight gain goes up in these rats. And then when that rat is given new kind of bacteria, the obesity actually goes down and the rat becomes lean. And so this is very, very good evidence that between the gut flora, the bacteria that lives inside of us, and the particular situation with diseases like obesity, there's a direct correlation. So one of the things that may be coming out in the next couple of years is the use of bacteria to help to fight obesity and fight illnesses. One of the interesting things is the Firmicutes bacteria that are basically known to create a condition of insulin resistance, of weight gain, and of increased caloric absorption. So for example, if someone has a preponderance of this type of bacteria, they may eat some food and more of that food then is broken down, converted to calories, and is actually absorbed. So that's correct. Two people may be eating the same kind of food and one will gain weight and one will not gain weight. And the gain in weight has to do with the relative ratio of these particular bacteria in the gut versus the bacteria that cause kind of lean approaches in the gut. So there is a lot of research that's going to be going on here. In short, as far as the clinical approach is concerned, there is no medical recommendation at this point, but definitely if one is taking antibiotics, I would suggest taking yogurt for a prolonged course after that. I think a daily course of yogurt can be very beneficial and exceedingly useful. And there should be definitely, we should keep our eyes open for studies that will come out in the next couple of years that will guide us in a direct direction. But at this point, I think it is very, very prudent for people to begin to be taking more lactobacillus, more acidophilus, more yogurt, and basically more things that do have and do contain live bacterial cultures. And these are, I believe, going to be proven very, very useful in the next couple of years. The most important thing for us to remember is that at this point, there are no randomized trials that show that there is a direct benefit on diabetes or on obesity. But what the revolutionary way of thinking here is that this could be potentially a paradigm shift, could really rearrange the way we think about diabetes, the way we think about obesity, and why people react so differently when given the same amount of food. One interesting study that I did cite above is that when the flora of a person who is obese is given to a mice, that mice then follows and becomes obese. And when the gut bacteria from a person that is lean is given to a germ-free mice, that mice then becomes lean. And it's interesting that between these two mice then, the lean bacteria are more dominant. So if these basically live in the same environment, gradually all the mice become lean. So in general, this is a very exciting and a very new approach and a very new way of thinking about obesity, weight gain, and diabetes. And we should really be ready to receive some more information. And as more data comes out, we'll be happy to share that data with you.